Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, coming up in the next 30 minutes. US President Donald Trump reaffirms desire to acquire Greenland for US security. Greenland warns Washington to stop applying pressure. Venezuela's ousted President Maduro to make first court appearance in New York today. Trump asserts to run Venezuela temporarily, UNSC to hold urgent session on Colombia's request to address the crisis. Iran pledges no leniency towards writers, triple subsidies to meet people's needs. And electronics production in India increased 6 times and exports grow 8 times in last 11 years, says IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw. A top story, US President Donald Trump on Sunday reiterated that the United States needs Greenland for national security, saying he would revisit the issue in about 2 months. Stressing the strategic importance of the mineral-rich Danish Arctic territory, President Trump said that Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships.
Well, I don't want to talk about Greenland. Let's talk about Venezuela, Russia, Ukraine, and we'll worry about Greenland any days.
On Venezuela, we talked so much about energy.
By the way, I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you that.
Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen has rejected the comments made by the US President Donald Trump on Greenland. In a social media post, Greenland's Prime Minister Nielsen warned Washington to stop applying pressure and insisted that any discussions must respect international law. While Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen described the idea of US control over Greenland as absurd, noting that Greenland is covered by NATO security guarantees. Finland's President Alexander Stubb extended support to Greenland, saying that no one decides for Greenland and Denmark but Greenland and Denmark themselves. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson and Norway's Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre put out similar messages of support. This comes as Donald Trump's recent remarks about Denmark being incapable of protecting Greenland have revived concerns amid Washington's recent military intervention in Venezuela. Now, US President Trump has stated that the US will run Venezuela following Saturday's military operation capturing Nicolas Maduro and his wife, now facing US drug charges. He warned of a potential second strike if remaining officials fail to cooperate in fixing the country. The UN Security Council will hold an emergency meeting on Monday amid global condemnation, a report. All right, so these are the live visuals that we are showing you. Maduro to face, in fact, he is going to the New York court. These are the live visuals that we are showing you to make first court appearance in New York.
US President Donald Trump said on Sunday that the United States might launch a second military strike on Venezuela following the capture of President Nicolas Maduro if remaining members of the administration do not cooperate with his efforts to get the country fixed. Trump's comments raised the possibility of further US military interventions in Latin America and suggested Colombia and Mexico could also face military action if they do not reduce the flow of illicit drugs to the United States.
The country is a mess. It's been horribly run. The oil is just flowing at a very low level, much lower than, even if it was badly run, it should have more income, more oil than what they do. So we're going to have the big oil companies go in. They're going to fix the infrastructure. They're going to invest money. we're not going to invest anything. We're going to just take care of the country. We're going to cherish the country. We're going to take care, more importantly, of the people, including Venezuelans that are living in our country that were forced to leave their country. Yeah, they're going to be taken very good care of. Yes.
President Trump also insisted that the United States is in charge of Venezuela, but he was also dealing with the new leadership in Caracas, as Vice President Delcy Rodriguez was appointed as interim president of the country. Trump warned that she may have to pay a bigger price than Maduro if she does not cooperate with the United States. Maduro and his wife are now awaiting trial in New York City on federal criminal charges, including narco terrorism conspiracy. Venezuela's interim president Rodriguez said that she was ready to work together with the Trump administration, asking the US leader for a balanced, respectful relationship. Trump said on Saturday that the US would take control of Venezuela's massive oil reserves and recruit American companies to invest billions of dollars to refurbish the country's gutted oil industry. Cuban government has said in a statement that 32 Cuban nationals were killed during the US attack on Caracas. Trump knew the facts. He further suggested that America's bitter foe might collapse on its own after the flow of relatively cheap oil from Venezuela will cease.
You know, one of the things that is happening, and I think you see it all the time, Howard, you've seen it, that Cuba is ready to fall. You know? Yes. Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they're going to hold out. But Cuba now has no income. They got all of their income from Venezuela, from the Venezuelan oil. They're not getting any of it. And Cuba literally is ready to fall. And you have a lot of great Cuban Americans that are going to be very happy about this.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio defended the military activity and said congressional approval wasn't required as it was a law enforcement operation, not a prolonged invasion of a foreign country. Protests in favor of U.S. action and against it sprang up in different parts of the globe. People rallied against Trump's military actions in many U.S. cities, while Venezuelan citizens took to the streets in Peru and other nations to celebrate the capture of Maduro. Thousands of government supporters took to the streets of Caracas, voicing their demand for the return of President Nicolas Maduro. Bureau Report, DD India.
And following the U.S. military operation in Caracas, the United Nations Security Council will hold an emergency meeting on Monday. The meeting is to discuss the recent capture of the deposed Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife by the United States under the agenda threats to international peace and security. And the Cuban government said on Sunday that 32 of its citizens were killed during a U.S. raid in Venezuela aimed at extracting President Nicolas Maduro to face trial in the United States. Havana declared 2 days of mourning set for January 5 and 6 to honor the deceased and announced that funeral arrangements would be disclosed later. Without providing specific details, Defense Minister General Vladimir Padrino said earlier on state television that the U.S. attack cold-bloodedly killed soldiers, civilians, and a large portion of Maduro's security personnel. Meanwhile, U.S. President Trump said that Cuba was ready to fall after U.S. forces seized the leader of its ally Venezuela, while playing down the need for any American military action there.
You know, one of the things that is happening, I think you see it all the time, Howard, you've seen it, that Cuba is ready to fall. You know? Yes. Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they're going to hold out. But Cuba now has no income. They got all of their income from Venezuela, from the Venezuelan oil. They're not getting any of it. And Cuba literally is ready to fall. And you have a lot of great Cuban Americans that are going to be very happy about this.
Are you considering U.S. action in Cuba?
We're not. I think it's just going to fall. I don't think we need any action. It looks like it's going down. It's going down for the count. You ever watch a fight?
Yeah.
They go down for the count. And Cuba looks like it's going down. What do you think?
Now, Colombian President Gustavo Petro on Sunday rejected threats from U.S. President Donald Trump, who accused him of being involved in drug trafficking. The remarks came after U.S. forces attacked in Caracas early Saturday, bombing military targets in an attempt to remove Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and assert Washington's influence over the oil-rich nation. Speaking to reporters, Trump warned of possible military action against Colombia as well, calling the country very sick and accusing its leadership of producing and selling cocaine to the United States. Moving on, Iran has announced a major increase in government subsidies as it moves to ease an impact of rising prices and the weakening rial on households. The government says monthly subsidies will rise from 3 million rials to 10 million rials per household, more than tripling the current amount. The support will not be given in cash. Instead, the money will be credited to household cards that can be used to buy essential goods. Meanwhile, country's head of the judiciary said on Monday that Iran will offer no leniency to rioters, though the public has a right to demonstrate. The demonstrations began last Sunday when shopkeepers staged a strike over high prices and economic stagnation. They have since spread to other places and expanded to include political demands. Protests have taken place in 25 out of Iran's 31 provinces and affected to varying degrees at least 45 different cities, most of them small or medium-sized and concentrated in the west. At least 12 people have been killed since December 30th in localized clashes, including members of the security forces, according to a tally based on official announcements, and there have been media reports of episodes of property damage in the west. The national currency, the rial, has lost more than a third of its value against the US dollar over the past year, while double-digit inflation has been undermining Iranians' purchasing power for years. Now, a Paris court on Monday found 10 people guilty for the cyber harassment of France's First Lady, Brigitte Macron, and were sentenced up to 8 months with suspended jail time. 8 men and 2 women aged 41 to 60 were tried in a Paris criminal court accused of making malicious comments about Brigitte Macron's gender and sexuality, including equating her age difference with her husband to pedophilia. Brigitte and her husband, French President Macron, have faced repeated false claims in recent years, with some saying she is a transgender woman who was born a man. Shifting focus, Russia on Monday said it had seized the village of Grabovska in Ukraine's Sumy region, from where Kiev had last month accused Moscow of forcibly relocating dozens of residents. The capture would mark a new advance in the northeastern region. Russia's defense ministry said on social media its troops took control of the village. Ukraine last month accused Russia of illegally detaining around 50 residents of Grabovska. Ukraine Foreign Minister Andrei Sybiha compared it to medieval raids and demanded their return. Russia is slowly but steadily gaining ground in eastern Ukraine amid ongoing diplomacy to end the conflict. Now, Ukraine's president shared details of talks with Australia's Prime Minister. The focus remained on defense support and ongoing diplomacy. In a post on X, the Ukrainian president said he discussed Ukraine's defense needs and recent Russian strikes with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. He noted Australia's commitment to support, especially the need for air defense missiles, and briefed the Prime Minister on diplomatic efforts and next steps. The Ukrainian leader also expressed condolences over the Bondi beach attack, where several victims were of Ukrainian origin, and conveyed solidarity with their families. Now, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung met his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping on Monday in Beijing. President Lee told the Chinese president that their summit is an important opportunity for full restoration of South Korea-China relations, and they will continue efforts to develop the strategic cooperative partnership between the two countries. Both the leaders witnessed signing of 15 cooperation documents in sci-tech, ecological, environment, transportation, economy and trade. Lee is the first South Korean leader to visit Beijing in 6 years, and his meeting with Xi comes a day after the nuclear-armed North fired 2 ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan. All right, still to come on this edition of DD India Live. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar in Paris for 6-day visit to France and Luxembourg to boost bilateral ties. In sports, Manchester United sacks manager Ruben Amorim after 14 months in charge.
Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching Read India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar is in Paris as part of a 6-day official visit to France and Luxembourg aimed at deepening bilateral ties. The External Affairs Minister on Monday will meet senior French leadership and hold detailed discussions with Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs Jean-Noel Barrot on progress under the India-France strategic partnership, including defence, space, Indo-Pacific cooperation and global issues. Dr. Jaishankar will also address the 31st French Ambassadors Conference as guest of honour. Dr. S. Jaishankar visited a textile exhibition titled Textile Matters, Woven Stories Between India and France. He was received by French Minister Eleonore Caroy at the exhibition. The exhibition highlights the deep and long-standing creative ties between India and France. Through textiles, it showcases hand-woven and handcrafted fabrics, reflecting centuries of shared artistic exchange between the two countries. The displays trace nearly 400 years of collaboration from Mughal-era textiles of 17th century to contemporary haute couture designs of 2025. The exhibition also brings together works from art, fashion, design and architecture, underlining how traditional craft practice continue to evolve in modern times. Dr. Jaishankar's visit underscores the role of textiles as a living link in India-France cultural relations, symbolizing a shared heritage while opening space for future collaboration. Now, Electronics and Information Technology Minister Ashwini Vaishnav said that electronics production in the country has increased 6 times and exports have grown 8 times in the last 11 years. In a social media post, Ashwini Vaishnav said Apple shipped mobile phones worth $50 billion in 2025. He said this progress has propelled electronics products among the top 3 exported items. He also highlighted that 46 component manufacturing projects, including laptop, server and hearable manufacturers, are making electronics manufacturing a major driver of the manufacturing economy. Ashwini Vaishnav also said India will become a major player in the entire electronic stack, including design, manufacturing, operating systems, applications, materials and equipment. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is scheduled to visit Somnath on January 11th to participate in the Somnath Swabhiman Parv celebrations. The Somnath Swabhiman Parv will be observed from January 8 to January 11, during which a range of programs highlighting India's spiritual heritage, cultural pride and social values will be held. A year-long series of spiritual, cultural and social activities will also be organized at Somnath to commemorate the Somnath Swabhiman Parv. The Somnath temple in Gujarat marks 1000 years of faith, devotion and resilience. On this day in 1026 AD, Mahmud of Ghazni had attacked the fortified temple town. Nearly 50,000 defenders had lost their lives while protecting the shrine. But through centuries, the Somnath temple has stood tall as a symbol of India's enduring spirit. A report. Somnath, one of the 12 Jyotirlingas or the most sacred shrines of Lord Shiva, revered by the Hindus. In fact, this is considered the most sacred of them all and is located in the western Indian state of Gujarat. For centuries, this shrine of Lord Shiva has been an unbroken center of faith for devotees of Sanatana Dharma, the followers of Hinduism since ancient times. The significance of Somnath is captured in this verse.
Somalingam naro drishtva sarva papai pramuchyate,
which means only a glimpse of Lord Somnath frees devotees from all sins. For centuries, people from different corners of the country have been traveling to Somnath. immersing themselves in boundless spiritual energy, hope and faith. Over the years, history has also recorded dates when attempts were made to destroy this sacred pilgrimage of faith. 1,000 years ago, in 1026 CE, with the invasion of Mahmud of Ghazni, a dark chapter of medieval barbarism began. The temple was destroyed, the shivling was broken, and it was placed inside a mosque. Attempts were made to trample and wipe out the Sanatan faith from the roots. Attempts were made to silence the ringing bells by attacking the ancient rituals. Barbarism and humiliation continued. Repeatedly, the Hindu faith and its followers were targeted. Countless innocent lives were lost. The aim was to erase the existence of Sanatan followers, to shatter their faith and destroy their traditions. First under the rule of Delhi Sultanate and later under the Mughals, this cruelty and the atrocities against the Hindus became a recurring pattern. Alauddin Khilji, Sultan Muzaffar, Mahmud Begra, Aurangzeb and many other rulers. The Somnath shrine faced repeated assaults by the invaders. The onslaught continued for centuries. The intentions were the same: to erase the Hindu faith even from the memory and extinguish forever the flame. They did not understand that Sanatan faith is not just limited to a structure. It resides in people's hearts, flows in their veins, and is connected to every breath of Lord Shiva. Every thought merges into the divine. These are the values that developed across the plains of the Ganges and Yamuna, the banks of Kaveri, the flow of Narmada, and the expanse of Godavari. Therefore, after every destruction, after every attempt to erase existence, people's determination rose higher than ever. Their faith deepened like ocean, and their tradition stood firm like Himalayas. There was no power, no resources, but there was resolve that belief would not end. Identity would remain eternal. In 1951, in independent India, the reconstruction of Somnath became a tangible expression of this resolve. It was not merely a construction, it was a declaration of self-respect. And today, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India is embracing its cultural consciousness with renewed confidence, free from the mindset of subjugation. On the completion of 1,000 years of this unbroken faith, the country is celebrating Somnath Swabhiman Parv. Somnath does not tell us how many times we were broken. Somnath tells us what we resolve each time. Do not forget, do not bow, do not stop. This is the voice of India's unbroken eternal faith. A civilization that has decided to stand at every turning point of history that even time cannot erase. Bureau Report, DD India. Sports now. Manchester United on Monday announced that they have sacked its manager Ruben Amorim. United said in a statement that the Portuguese had left his role, with the club's leadership having reluctantly made the decision that it is the right time to make a change. The decision comes a day after Amorim had bristled at questions about his job security, delivering a defined message that he came to United as a manager with full authority and not merely a coach taking orders. Amorim had looked downbeat on Friday when discussing potential transfers, and after Leeds' draw, the Portuguese coach grew visibly irritated when pressed about whether he still had the board's confidence. United is presently at 6th spot in the EPL after their 1-1 draw at Leeds on Sunday. Alright, that's all we have in this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.